Welcome to True Crime Cases, where we delve into the darkest corners of human nature. Today's episode unravels a tale of husband's secret affair with babysitter, ends in tragic murder. Michael Hartley, 43, was a renowned cardiothoracic surgeon at St. Charles Medical Center. Known for his steady hands and innovative techniques in the operating room, Michael was highly respected by his colleagues and patients alike. His wife, Rebecca Hartley, 39, was a part-time art teacher at Cascade Middle School, beloved by her students for her creativity and nurturing nature. Their children, Sophia, 8, and Lucas, 6, were bright and vivacious, the pride and joy of their parents. To the outside world, the Hartleys appeared to have it all. They were fixtures at community events, hosting neighborhood gatherings in their spacious home on Northwest Crossing Drive. Rebecca volunteered at the children's school and local art center, while Michael often gave inspirational talks at career days, encouraging young minds to pursue careers in medicine. Their home was always immaculate, with a perfectly manicured lawn and a garden that was the envy of the neighborhood, tended lovingly by Rebecca in her spare time. However, the picture-perfect exterior concealed a growing rift between Michael and Rebecca. As Michael's career flourished, he spent increasingly long hours at the hospital, often missing family dinners and school events. Rebecca, while outwardly supportive of her husband's important work, couldn't help but feel neglected and isolated. The couple's intimate moments became increasingly rare, replaced by polite but distant conversations about schedules and household matters. Enter Amber Larson, a 22-year-old nursing student at Oregon State University Cascades. With her long auburn hair, sparkling green eyes, and infectious laugh, Amber quickly became a favorite babysitter for Sophia and Lucas. The children adored her energy and creativity, always excited when she came to watch them. Rebecca appreciated Amber's reliability and the way she engaged the kids in both fun and educational activity. At first, Michael barely noticed Amber, too preoccupied with his work to pay much attention to the young woman who occasionally cared for his children. But as the months passed, he found himself looking forward to the brief interactions when he'd return home to find Amber still there, regaling him with stories of the children's latest adventures, or asking thoughtful questions about his work in cardiothoracic surgery. What started as innocent conversations soon evolved into something more. Michael found himself confiding in Amber about the pressures of his job and the growing distance he felt from Rebecca. Amber, in turn, shared her dreams of becoming a nurse and her struggles balancing work and study. Their shared interest in medicine created a bond that deepened with each interaction, slowly blurring the lines between professional acquaintances and something more intimate. One fateful night in June, when Rebecca was away at an art retreat in Portland, Michael returned home early from a particularly challenging surgery. Amber had just put the children to bed, and the two found themselves alone in the quiet house. The tension that had been building between them finally boiled over, and they shared a passionate kiss that would set in motion a chain of events leading to tragedy. Over the next few months, Michael and Amber's affair intensified. They stole moments together whenever possible, hurried encounters in on-call rooms at the hospital, clandestine meetings in out-of-the-way cafes, and stolen kisses when Amber babysat. Michael felt alive in a way he hadn't in years, intoxicated by Amber's youth, beauty, and adoration. Amber, for her part, was swept away by Michael's maturity, success, and the exciting world of medicine he represented. She saw in him everything she aspired to become, and the forbidden nature of their relationship only added to its allure. As summer turned to fall, Rebecca began to sense that something was amiss. Michael seemed distracted and distant, often checking his phone with a secretive smile. He started coming home even later, claiming he was caught up in complex surgeries or important meetings. Rebecca's attempts to reconnect were met with polite indifference, leaving her feeling increasingly isolated and confused. She threw herself into her art and her children, trying to fill the growing void in her marriage. The children, too, picked up on the changing dynamics in their home. Sophia, perceptive beyond her years, noticed the tension between her parents and the way her father's eyes lit up when Amber arrived. She began to withdraw, spending more time in her room with her books and art supplies. Lucas, younger and more oblivious, simply enjoyed the extra attention Amber lavished on him, unaware of the undercurrents swirling around him. As autumn leaves began to fall, painting Ben in shades of gold and crimson, the secret affair teetered on the brink of exposure. Rebecca, driven by a gnawing suspicion, began to investigate her husband's behavior more closely. She noticed discrepancies in his schedule, unexplained charges on their credit card, and the lingering scent of unfamiliar perfume on his clothes. Her artist's eye for detail, once a source of joy in her work, now became a torment as she catalogued every small sign of her husband's betrayal. One crisp October morning, while Michael was in surgery, Rebecca made a fateful decision. She searched his home office, a space she had always respected as his private domain. Hidden in the back of a drawer, she found a burner phone filled with intimate text messages and photos exchanged between Michael and Amber. The discovery set Rebecca reeling, her world crumbling around her, as she confronted the bitter truth of her husband's infidelity. Overwhelmed by anger and heartbreak, Rebecca confronted Michael that evening, after the children were in bed. The ensuing argument was explosive, with years of pent-up frustration and resentment pouring out. Michael, caught off guard and defensive, tried to downplay the affair, but Rebecca's evidence was irrefutable. As their voices rose, Sophia and Lucas huddled together in Sophia's room, frightened by the unfamiliar sound of their parents shouting and the shattering of what sounded like Rebecca's favorite vase. In the heat of the argument, Rebecca delivered an ultimatum: end the affair immediately and commit to rebuilding their marriage, or she would leave with the children and expose his infidelity to the hospital board, potentially ruining his career. Michael, faced with the prospect of losing everything he had worked for, reluctantly agreed to end things with Amber. Following day, Michael met Amber at Drake Park, place they had often rendezvoused, enjoying the beauty of Mirror Pond and the privacy afforded by the winding trails. As they walked along the Deschutes River, the autumn leaves crunching beneath their feet, Michael broke the news that their affair had to end. Amber, devastated and angry, accused Michael of using her and threatened to tell Rebecca everything if he abandoned. The conversation quickly escalated, with both parties becoming increasingly agitated. In a moment of panic and desperation, Michael lashed out. He grabbed Amber by the shoulders, intending to shake some sense into her, but misjudged his strength. Amber stumbled backward, losing her footing on the slippery rocks at the river's edge. She fell, hitting her head on a large boulder, with a sickening crack that seemed to echo through the otherwise peaceful park. Michael stood frozen in horror, as Amber lay motionless, blood pooling around her head and mixing with the clear waters of the Deschutes. In those crucial moments, as the gravity of what had happened sank in, Michael made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Instead of calling for help, he dragged Amber's body into the dense underbrush along the riverbank, concealing it as best he could behind a fallen log and covering it with leaves and branches. Shaken and covered in blood, Michael made his way home, his mind racing with fear and guilt. He showered and burned his clothes, trying to erase all evidence of what had transpired. When Rebecca questioned his disheveled appearance and agitated state, he claimed he had been called in for an emergency surgery that had gone badly, resulting in the loss of the young patient. Rebecca, still raw from the revelation of his affair, mistook his behavior for guilt over his infidelity rather than the far more sinister truth lay beneath. For the next few days, Michael lived in a state of constant anxiety, jumping at every phone call and police siren. He struggled to maintain his composure at work and at home, his hands shaking during surgeries and his temper short with his family. Rebecca, watching him closely, interpreted his behavior as the struggle of a man trying to overcome his mistakes and recommit to his family. She began to hope that perhaps they could move past this difficult time and rebuild their relationship. As days turned into weeks, Amber's disappearance became a major news case in Bend. Her face was plastered on telephone poles and storefront windows. Her case featured nightly on local news broadcasts. Community rallied together to search for the missing nursing student, organizing volunteer search parties that combed the areas around OSU Cascades, Drake Park, and the surrounding wilderness. Michael watched the search efforts with a mixture of guilt and terror, knowing that at any moment Amber's body could be discovered. He considered confessing multiple times, but was always held back by the fear of losing his family and his career. Each night, he lay awake, tormented by nightmares of Amber's accusing eyes and the moment of her fall. The sound of the river, once soothing, now filled him with dread. The investigation into Amber's disappearance intensified as weeks passed without any leads. Detective Sarah Chen, a seasoned investigator with the Bend Police Department, led the case. Known for her sharp instincts and relentless pursuit of the truth, Detective Chen left no stone unturned in her quest to find Amber. As the investigation progressed, Detective Chen began to uncover inconsistencies in the statements of those close to Amber. Several of Amber's friends mentioned a secret boyfriend, though none knew his name or had ever met him. Amber's roommate recalled her being excited about a date on the day she disappeared, but couldn't provide any details about who she was meeting. The breakthrough in the case came when a kayaker discovered Amber's body in the Deschutes River, partially uncovered by the changing water levels as winter approached. The discovery sent shock waves through the community, turning a missing person case into a homicide investigation. The peaceful town of Bend, once considered a safe haven for outdoor enthusiasts and families alike, now felt tainted by the specter of murder. As the forensic team combed the area where Amber's body was found, they uncovered crucial evidence. A button from an expensive dress shirt, caught in the underbrush near the body, provided a potential link to the killer. DNA evidence collected from under Amber's fingernails suggested a struggle with her attacker. The medical examiner's report indicated that Amber had died from blunt force trauma to the head, consistent with a fall onto the rocks by the river. Detective Chen and her team worked tirelessly, interviewing Amber's friends, family, and acquaintances. They traced her last known movements, piecing together a timeline of her final day. Security camera footage from businesses near Drake Park was scrutinized, revealing a glimpse of Amber walking with an unidentified man on the day of her disappearance. As the investigation zeroed in on Amber's secret boyfriend, Michael's carefully constructed facade began to crumble. His colleagues at the hospital noticed his increasingly erratic behavior, with some expressing concerns about his ability to perform surgeries. At home, his relationship with Rebecca remained strained, the weight of his secrets creating an insurmountable barrier between them. The turning point came when Detective Chen interviewed the Hartley family as part of the routine canvassing of Amber's acquaintances. During the interview, Sophia innocently mentioned how much time Amber and her father had spent together, raising Detective Chen's suspicions. Rebecca, hearing this, felt a renewed sense of betrayal and anger, realizing that Michael's affair with Amber had been more extensive than she had initially believed. Confronted with this new information, Rebecca's protective instincts kicked in. Despite her anger towards Michael, she couldn't bear the thought of her children losing their father. She provided Michael with an alibi for the day of Amber's disappearance, claiming he had been home with the family. This lie, told out of a misguided sense of loyalty, would later come back to haunt her. As the investigation intensified, Michael's guilt and fear became overwhelming, began to make mistakes, arousing further suspicion. A nurse at the hospital recalled seeing Michael and Amber in an intimate conversation in a secluded corridor. Park ranger remembered seeing a man matching Michael's description, hurriedly leaving Drake Park on the day of Amber's disappearance, looking disheveled and agitated. The final piece of the puzzle fell into place when forensic analysis matched the DNA found under Amber's fingernails to a sample taken from Michael during a routine hospital procedure. The button found at the crime scene was also traced back to a brand of shirt that Michael was known to favor. With mounting evidence pointing towards Michael, Detective Chen obtained a warrant to search the Hartleys' home. The search uncovered the burner phone Rebecca had discovered weeks earlier, providing concrete evidence of Michael's affair with Amber. In a hidden compartment of Michael's desk, they also found a blood-stained watch that matched the description of one Amber had been wearing on the day she disappeared. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Michael finally broke down and confessed to Detective Chen. He recounted the events of that fateful day in Drake Park, insisting that Amber's death had been an accident, but admitting to his role in concealing her body and obstructing the investigation. As he was led away in handcuffs, Michael caught a final glimpse of Rebecca and the children. Devastation on their faces, a stark reminder of the lives he had destroyed. The arrest of Michael Hartley sent shockwaves through Bend. The community struggled to reconcile the image of the respected surgeon with the man capable of such a horrific act. St. Charles Medical Center faced intense scrutiny, with questions raised about how such behavior could have gone unnoticed. The hospital implemented new policies and procedures to prevent similar situations in the future, but the damage to its reputation was significant. Rebecca, devastated by the extent of Michael's betrayal and the role she had unwittingly played in obstructing justice, struggled to hold her family together. She faced harsh judgment from some members of the community who believed she must have known about her husband's action. The children, too young to fully understand what had happened, were nonetheless deeply affected by the sudden absence of their father and the palpable sadness that permeated their home. The trial of Michael Hartley became a media sensation, drawing national attention to the quiet town of Bend. Prosecution painted a picture of a man driven by selfish desires, willing to sacrifice everything, protect his reputation. Michael's defense team argued for a charge of manslaughter, maintaining that Amber's death had been accidental, and that Michael's subsequent actions were driven by panic rather than malice. Throughout the trial, Rebecca sat stoically in the courtroom, torn between her lingering feelings for the man she had loved and the horror of his action. Amber's family, present every day, sought justice for their daughter while grappling with the senselessness of her loss. The courtroom was often filled with tension, as supporters of both the Hartley and Larson families struggled to come to terms with the tragedy that had unfolded. After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury found Michael Hartley guilty of second-degree murder and obstruction of justice. He was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison, a fall from grace so profound it seemed almost unreal to those who had known him as a pillar of the community. As he was led away, Michael's final words to Rebecca were a plea for forgiveness, met only with a cold stare from the woman whose life he had shattered. In the aftermath of the trial, Ben struggled to heal. The case had exposed the dark undercurrents that can exist beneath the surface, even the most seemingly perfect lives. It sparked conversations about infidelity, trust, and the pressures faced by medical professionals. Local counselors and therapists reported an increase in couples seeking help, as the Hartley case forced many to confront issues in their own relationships. Rebecca Hartley, left to rebuild her life and care for her children alone, found strength she didn't know she possessed. She threw herself into her art, creating powerful pieces that explored themes of betrayal, redemption, and resilience. Her work gained recognition in the local art community, and she eventually held a successful exhibition, helped her process her emotions and connect with others who had experienced similar traumas. Rebecca's case became an inspiration to others who had lived through similar ordeals, and she eventually began speaking at support groups for families affected by crime. Her journey from victim to survivor resonated with many, and she found purpose in helping others navigate the complex emotions that come with such a betrayal. Sophia and Lucas, shielded as much as possible from the details of their father's crimes, nonetheless carried the weight of his action. As they grew older, they would grapple with complex feelings about their father and the choices he had made. Sophia, once a bubbly and outgoing child, became more introspective and withdrawn. She threw herself into her studies and art, finding solace in creating beautiful things amidst the chaos of her family life. Lucas, on the other hand, struggled with anger issues, acting out in school and having difficulty forming close relationships with his peers. Rebecca worked tirelessly to provide them with a stable, loving environment, determined that they would not be defined by their father's mistakes. She sought out therapy for both children, recognizing the importance of professional help in processing their trauma. Over time, with patience and love, she saw glimmers of healing in her children. Sophia's art began to reflect themes of hope and renewal, while Lucas found an outlet for his emotions through sports. excelling in track and field. Amber Larson's family, devastated by the loss of their daughter, channeled their grief into positive action. They established a scholarship in her name at Oregon State University Cascades, ensuring that her dream of helping others through nursing would live on. Each year, promising nursing students who demonstrated Amber's compassion and dedication were given the opportunity to pursue their studies in her honor. The scholarship became a beacon of hope, transforming a tragedy into a legacy of healing and education. The town of Bend, forever changed by the tragedy, implemented new community outreach programs aimed at supporting families in crisis and promoting open communication. Local churches and community centers offered workshops on recognizing signs of infidelity and abuse, as well as resources for those struggling in their relationships. The case served as a sobering reminder that appearances can be deceiving, and that every person, no matter how respected or successful, is capable of making devastating choices. St. Charles Medical Center, reeling from the scandal involving one of their top surgeons, underwent a period of intense scrutiny and reform. They implemented stricter background checks, mandatory counseling services for staff, and anonymous reporting systems for any concerns about colleague behavior. The hospital worked hard to rebuild trust with the community, hosting open forums and increasing their involvement in local health initiatives. As years passed, the wounds inflicted by Michael Hartley's actions slowly began to heal. The case of the surgeon, the babysitter, and the tragic affair that ended in murder became a cautionary tale, whispered about in Ben's cafes and retold to newcomers as part of the town's dark history. Yet from this tragedy, a resilient community emerged, one that had faced its demons and come out stronger. Michael Hartley, serving his sentence at the Eastern Oregon Correctional Institution, grappled with the consequences of his actions every day. The once respected surgeon now spent his days in a small cell, his surgical skills wasted as he performed menial prison jobs. He attempted to maintain a relationship with his children through letters and occasional supervised visits. But the strain of his crimes made it difficult for Sophia and Lucas to connect with him. As they grew older, their visits became less frequent, each interaction a painful reminder of what they had lost. Rebecca, despite her initial anger and betrayal, found herself on a complex journey of healing and forgiveness. While she could never excuse Michael's actions, she realized that holding on to her anger was only hurting herself and her children. Through therapy and support groups, she learned to process her emotions and focus on rebuilding her life. Her art became a powerful medium for expressing her journey, with her pieces evolving from dark, chaotic expressions of pain to more hopeful representations of healing and growth. The Larson family, while never fully recovering from the loss of Amber, found purpose in advocating for victims' rights and supporting other families affected by violent crimes. They became active in local and state politics, pushing for legislation to protect vulnerable individuals and increase penalties for crimes of passion. Their efforts led to the passage of Amber's Law, strengthened protection orders, and increased resources for domestic violence prevention in Oregon. As Sophia entered her teenage years, she began to show a teen interest in psychology, inspired by her own experiences with therapy and her desire to understand the complexities of human behavior. She volunteered at a local crisis hotline, using her empathy and insight to help others in need. Her journey of healing became intertwined with her growing passion for helping others. She set her sights on becoming a therapist, specializing in trauma and family counseling. Lucas, who had struggled with anger and trust issues throughout his childhood, found an unexpected mentor in his high school track coach. The coach, a former military veteran who had overcome his own struggles with PTSD, recognized the pain behind Lucas's tough exterior. Through running and honest conversations, Lucas began to confront his feelings about his father and the impact of the tragedy on his life. He discovered a talent for long-distance running, using the solitude and discipline of the sport to process his emotions and build self-confidence. The community of Bend, while never forgetting the tragedy that had shaken them, began to heal and grow. The annual Amber Larson Memorial 5K Run Walk became a popular event, bringing together hundreds of community members to raise funds for the Nursing Scholarship and Domestic Violence Prevention Program. The event served as a reminder of the importance of community support and the power of turning tragedy into positive action. Rebecca's art career flourished as she gained recognition for her powerful, emotionally charged pieces. Her exhibitions drew visitors from across the state, many of whom found solace and understanding in her work. She began teaching art therapy workshops, using her experiences to help others process trauma and find healing through creative expression. Her journey from victim to survivor to mentor became an inspiration to many, and she found a new sense of purpose in helping others navigate their own paths to healing. As the years passed, the Hartley children faced the challenging task of forging their own identities, separate from their father's crimes. Sophia, now in college studying psychology, grappled with anxiety about forming close relationships, always fearing that she might somehow repeat her father's mistake. However, with the support of her mother and her own determination, she slowly learned to open herself up to friendships and even romance, realizing that she was not defined by her father's action. Lucas, who had once been angry at the world, channeled his energy into becoming an advocate for at-risk youth. His experiences on the track team had shown him the transformative power of mentorship and physical activity. He started a program that paired troubled teens with athletic mentors, providing them with positive role models and healthy outlets for their emotion. His work began to heal not only the youth he helped, but also the lingering wounds in his own heart. Michael Hartley, watching his children's lives unfold from behind prison walls, was forced to confront the full impact of his selfish choices. He spent countless hours in therapy and self-reflection, trying to understand how he had allowed himself to destroy so many lives. While he knew he could never undo the harm he had caused, he committed himself to becoming a better person, even within the confines of his cell. He began writing a memoir, not to justify his actions, but to serve as a warning to others about the devastating consequences of infidelity and the importance of honesty in relationship. The town of Bend, once known primarily for its natural beauty and outdoor recreation, now carried a more complex legacy. Visitors to Drake Park would sometimes pause at the spot where Amber's life been tragically cut short, a small memorial plaque serving as a quiet reminder of the events that had unfolded there. However, the park also became a symbol of the community's resilience, hosting events that celebrated life, art, and healing. As the 10th anniversary of Amber's death approached, the community came together to reflect on how far they had come. The Amber Larson Nursing Scholarship had helped dozens of students achieve their dreams of becoming nurses, many of whom chose to stay in Bend and give back to the community that had supported them. The Hartley children, now young adults, participated in a panel discussion at the local community college, sharing their experiences of overcoming trauma and finding purpose in the wake of tragedy. Rebecca, her hair now streaked with gray but her spirit stronger than ever, stood before a packed auditorium to deliver a keynote speech at a conference on resilience and healing. As she shared her case, she looked out at the faces in the crowd, survivors, supporters, and those still on their journey to healing. She spoke of the darkness she had faced, challenges of rebuilding a shattered life, and the unexpected strengths she had discovered within herself. "We cannot choose the tragedies that befall us," Rebecca said, her voice strong and clear. "But we can choose how we respond to them. Every day we have the power to decide whether we will be defined by our past, or whether we will use it as a foundation to build a better future. It is not an easy journey, and there will be days when the pain feels insurmountable. But I stand here today as living proof that healing is possible, that joy can be rediscovered, and that even in the wake of unimaginable loss, life can still be beautiful." As she finished her speech, the room erupted in applause, many eyes glistening with tears of recognition and hope. In that moment, the legacy of the tragedy that had rocked Bend a decade earlier was transformed. It was no longer just a tale of betrayal and loss, but a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of a community to heal and grow stronger together. Case of the Hartley family and Amber Larson would forever be a part of Bend's history, a somber reminder of the consequences of betrayal and the fragility of trust. But it also became a case of hope, of the capacity for growth and change, and of the enduring strength of the human spirit in the face of adversity. As the sun set over the Cascade Mountains, casting a golden glow over the town of Bend, it illuminated a community forever changed but unbroken, moving forward, with a deeper understanding of the complexities of human nature and the power of compassion, forgiveness, and resilience. Thank you for joining us for this gripping true crime case. We appreciate your interest and hope you found the tale of the Hartley family both compelling and thought-provoking. Cases like these remind us of the complex nature of human relationships and the unforeseen consequences our actions can have. While the events depicted here are tragic, they also highlight the resilience of the human spirit and a community's ability to heal. We look forward to bringing you more fascinating true crime narratives in our upcoming videos. Each case offers unique insights into the human condition and the workings of justice. Until next time, stay safe and keep watching. Your support allows us to continue sharing these important stories. We'll see you in our next video, where another real-life mystery awaits to be unraveled.